Hello and welcome to FPL Malbo. My name is Andy and it's my team selection video ahead of Game Week 18 for you today. I've also got a kind of transfer planning section in there as well to deal with the next few game weeks. If you enjoyed these videos, then please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So here's how I got on in Game Week 17. First things first, I did indeed pull the wildcard. Slightly annoyed at myself. I usually like to plan when I'm going to use the wildcard. You can use it early on in the game week and then you can kind of capitalize on price changes. I made quite a late decision to use it, which meant that a couple of players rose in price. But that is what it is. I hadn't really considered it. I kind of locked into using it game week 19 and things have changed. The Haaland injury in particular, but also the rearrangement of Brentford and Man City, not likely to be in game week 20 now. It just meant that it didn't seem worth it to me anymore to put it off. So pulled the trigger. The only difference between my team and my wildcard draft was that I was priced out of getting Pau Torres from Villa. So I went down to Konsa instead. Not too bothered about that. They're realistically probably my fourth choice defender in my back three at the moment anyway. And I think Konsa's almost as nailed as Pau Torres, only just a smidge behind. Probably slightly less goal threats, but I'm not too disappointed with having to make that change anyway. On to my game week then. So 72 points, and it was a big green arrow. I haven't completely worked it out, but I think I'm looking around 20 to 25 points that I gained on my wildcard team against what my team would have been for the game week. It also looks way stronger going forward, and I don't think the extra points that I get now will be too detrimental for not using the wildcard later. So, yeah, really pleased with that decision. I picked Dubravka over Raya. He actually scored a point more with 7, so that was great. Although clean sheets from both. Trent got 9 points. Kind of a weird one. The Liverpool United game was the worst game I've seen this season. I watched it. Liverpool. I mean, they did control the game. United were really poor in possession. They just couldn't put together any sort of counter attack. So Liverpool dominated the ball, but they just didn't seem to have any idea. They either threw crosses into the box, which, in fairness, Varane and Evans dealt with really well, but you're also playing to those two guys' strengths. I think utilising pace would have been better than their aerial presence. And then they had long shots and didn't really trouble Onana from long range. So, yeah, Trent was probably the best player on the pitch, and a very, very poor game for me, and probably deserved his 3 bonus points. He at least showed a little bit of composure on the ball. On to Gabriel and Pedro Porro. Clean sheets from both. Pedro Porro picking up a couple of bonus. I said a couple of weeks ago I thought he was the best defensive option in the game, and I stick to that. As long as Maddison's out and he's on set pieces, he's just essential. Just find a way to get him in your team if you don't have him. Onto the midfield. So it's probably the only place where I potentially lost points is that I got rid of Bowen and I brought in Son and Palmer. Now, Son and Palmer considerably outscored Bowen and Mitoma, but it was because of Palmer's 14 points, goal and assist. For him, nothing for Son. Son looked really lively in that match. Not worried about him going forward. I think he's an explosive option. He will get a lot of 2 points for you, and he'll get a lot of 14, 15 point hauls. Whereas somebody like Saka, for example, who came away with 3-pointer, he's somebody who, just chips in a lot. He just gets a lot of 6s, things like that. Whereas Hall, Son's really there for the big haul. So, yeah, you've just got to expect some blanks with him. He tends to sort of dominate or not, pick up anything. But yeah, looked really lively in that game. I think he's a good option on the left. I still think he's a better option through the middle, but it looks like Richarlison's the main man for that going forward. But yeah, still a good option on the left. And then Salah was as disappointing as anyone really in that Liverpool game. The same as everyone else really, just taking shots from long range or putting crosses into the box. That was kind of it. Never looked like scoring. I thought he had potential for a haul there, but yeah, just 3 points for him, so 6 for my captain. And then going on to the strikers, Solanke currently has 6. first of all, like, obviously wish all the best to Tom Locklear. It sounds like he's at least going to be okay from a health point of view. I don't know from a footballing point of view, but always horrible to see something like that. So I'm glad he was in the tunnel and he was conscious and he was doing okay. I'll talk more about that fixture later on, but at the moment, the game week's been left open. If Solanke's points don't count and they rearrange that game, then I would have Gordon off the bench, so I would have the same amount of points. I would imagine I get a slight red arrow because it means that auto subs haven't been done yet. A lot of people owned Haaland and will get their first sub off the bench. So yeah, my guess is I'll get a slight red arrow from where I'm at, but it'll still be a big green. Now I got Alvarez with 2. That was another disappointment. He had 1 early chance, but very little else. He's probably the one who will make way for Haaland when I bring Haaland back in. And Ollie Watkins with 9, goal, 3 bonus. I'm so glad I've got him in my team now. He has been killing my rank this season. So yeah, I'm delighted to have him going forward. I think he's a great captaincy option for next week. So yeah, 72 points. It halved my rank. I'm just outside the top 30k. Really pleased with that. Let's have a look at kind of some of the problems that are coming up in the next few weeks and what I would do to deal with them. So I've got a few kind of key questions that I've been asking myself anyway for the next few game weeks and how I'm going to plan to kind of deal with them. I love this time of the season when you've got games coming thick and fast and you've got some blanks and doubles, players missing. It just adds a whole extra layer of excitement into FPL, I find. First of all, the Luton and Bournemouth fixture, we don't know what's going to happen with that. My guess is it will either be replayed from the point that the game was stopped and then abandoned, or it'll be played in full. I imagine if it's played from the point that it carries on, then the player's points will carry on. And if it's started in full, then the points will be null and void. But I think until we get any kind of update from the Premier League about what's going to happen with that, I doubt we'll have an update from FPL. They'll just be waiting for that. But it does mean that we've got a potential double if it's put into another game week, or it could be played soon. And obviously that game week will still happen. I don't know. It's hard to say until the Premier League says anything on that. So we just have to keep our eyes peeled on that one. Certainly it makes Dominic Solanke a great option going forward if they're going to potentially have an extra fixture in there. Now, what to do with Haaland? I think if you have still got Haaland, I'd probably keep hold of him. He isn't going to play this week anyway. Obviously, Man City have blank. I would wait and see whether he plays during the World Club Cup, which is currently the semi-finals going on now, and Haaland isn't taking part now as I record this video. But we don't know whether his injury is likely to be any long-term. He may well be back next game week. If you've sold him, you've got 2 things really. If you're like me and you've sold him and you spread the funds, then that makes it tougher. If you sold him and it was a straight swap for somebody, say it was for Dominic Solanke, then you can obviously just reverse that decision because you've got that money still saved. Now, for me, who has spread the funds around by wildcarding, it's a pretty simple solution for me, and it leads into the next question, really. In the next question, when will players from the Asia Cup and Afcon be missing? It's game week 21, and it'll be around game week 24, 25 when those players are back, depending how far they go into the competition. Now, there's lots of players that are going, but the main 2 that I think people have and is going to affect it is Son and Salah. Now, for me, I think that Salah is a really great captaincy option. Not this game week, but the game week after. I think they've got Burnley. So I want to have Salah in really for that fixture. Whereas after that, I'm kind of happy to get rid of him 1 game week really early before he goes, as he has Newcastle. Newcastle at home, yeah. So my plan is to get through 1 week of non-Haaland, kind of hope that he's not back for game week 19, and then I will get him in, and I will make the money to get him in by selling Salah before that Newcastle fixture. Obviously, you'll have Son as well. A lot of people own both of them. I'll then probably look at selling Son in game week 21. and my transfer plan to get them back in can then start being formed. I don't think there's any reason to really save those players. I mean, obviously, there's a possibility that they go to Afcon and then, get knocked out of the competition early, you miss a game week or two, but you could potentially be missing them for 3, maybe 4 game weeks. I think if we heard that Salah was injured for 4 game weeks, you would look at getting rid of him, even on the potential that he might come back sooner than that. So I don't think it's worth saving him. I think it's easy to save the money back because it's quite hard to spend the money, if that makes sense. There isn't too many options. There isn't any option really around the same price point. So you're still going to have money not tied up in your team as long as you're not bringing in sort of Trent and Trippier and players like that alongside it. So yeah, I think I will probably look at bringing a cheaper midfielder in, look at bringing Haaland in for Alvarez, and then get rid of Son in game week 21. And then deal with that when it comes about, those players coming back. The last one is Brentford Man City. Now, I said that I wasn't going to save the wild card because I didn't think that was going to go into game week 20. They've announced which game's going to be on TV in that week. They usually announce the fixtures at the same time they do the TV announcements. The game wasn't announced. Interestingly, in Pep's press conference, he kind of alluded to the fact that there was a possibility it might be in game week 21, but we've got no confirmation of that. If it is in 21, that should get announced pretty soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. One thing I would say is that obviously Man City are still great options because they're Man City, regardless of what their form's been like. Whereas Brentford, although they've been okay recently, without their 2 best assets really, in Buemo and Ivan Toney, it's difficult to know who to go for. I mean, you can go for Visser, but they've certainly not looked as sharp in attack. I think they've had 1 goal in the last 2. And yeah, defensively, well, they'd be playing Man City as part of that double. So I don't think you want to be doubling up on Brentford defenders either. So yeah, it's becoming a less appealing double, I think, to target because of Brentford's injuries and because it isn't in game week 20 or isn't likely to be now. So for me, when I hear it's going to be rearranged, definitely need to make sure I have Haaland for that. Be lovely to have a second, even third City option if there was any way of me achieving that. But Brentford, good chance I'll just stay away from that. So finally, this is how my team is shaping up ahead of next week. I do have 0.1 million in the bank. I do have 1 free transfer, but this is going to be quite boring in terms of potential transfers because I am 99% sure I'm going to do absolutely nothing. The only way I would do something is if I hear about an injury. I don't know, Trent's ruled out for the next month. I would probably sell him, but aside from that, I'd be rolling a transfer. Reason being is that I am not 100% sure on who I want to sell Salah to, I guess. And I want to make that decision before it happens because I need to make sure I have enough money for it. Now, I've got to say Richarlison really interests me. Playing down the middle for a very attacking Tottenham team is a decent price point. I think he's like 6.7 million, something like that, off the top of my head. I can't just sell Alvarez to Haaland and Salah to Richarlison. Also, I really like Richarlison because, of course, Son going to the Asia Cup means he's even more nailed as a starter. I mean, who knows? He might even be on penalties. But yeah, if that was what I decided to do, I have 1 transfer before I would make that switch. And so I need to take money out of my team to do it. There's a few potential options for me. I could look at selling Son early. I could look at downgrading Trent, who I really like owning, but his price point is just such a luxury for me at the moment. Or potentially selling Solanke as well. I could just have Haaland and Watkins as a front 2, and I could just downgrade Solanke right down to a bench fodder, probably at 4.3 million, or potentially Archer if I wanted a playing player at 4.6. So I think rolling a transfer, keeping my options open, probably the best option for this game week. Let's go through my team. Dubravka start again. Luton away better at home than they are away, so I don't think it's the easiest fixture or a guaranteed clean sheet, but it's still much better than Liverpool away, which is who Raya faces. My defence, that game is obviously tough for Trent as well. Arsenal at home, but Trent's a bonus point magnet, and he chips in with assists and goals, and I don't think they'll get a clean sheet, but it's a possibility. So I'm hoping for a response, I guess, from Liverpool. And as a Man City fan, I'm hoping for a draw. Console coming to my team in front of Gabriel because of that tough fixture. Sheffield United at home. I'm pretty sure he'll start, and I'd say a decent chance for a clean sheet there, pretty high. Pedro Porro against Everton. I could see Everton scoring in that game. They've looked very good recently, although defensively more than going forward, admittedly. But all the reasons I've spoken about Pedro Porro before: free kicks, corners, bombing forward, gets in the box, takes shots. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he got another 6, 7, 8 pointer. Son currently got the vice captaincy on him. I think for me, there's an obvious captain's choice. If Everton were in the form that they were a month ago, then yeah, Son would be the one that I go for. But they've looked much better recently. So yeah, Son with the vice at the moment. It's still a decent fixture, and I fancy a decent points haul there. Salah against Arsenal, who knows? I mean, it's Mo Salah, so let's not rule him out for points. Well, tough the fixture. Saka again, basically the same thing. Rinse and repeat. He's looked lively. I thought it was dead unlucky not to get an assist in the Brighton game. It flicks the hair of Van Heck, the Brighton defender. He does get a touch on it, but it doesn't make any difference really. I think they could just give him that assist. Cole Palmer against Wolves. Wolves have been a bit hit and miss recently. Chelsea have been hit and miss all season, but he's nailed. He's on penalties and he's cheap. Love him as an enabler in my team. And Gordon, that Luton fixture, like I say, Luton are much better at home, but you'd still fancy them conceding. And Gordon seems to be involved in the goals with Newcastle pretty much all the time. Then on to the strikers. Solanke against Nottingham Forest. I think Solanke's probably the third best striking option in the game at the moment, behind Watkins and Haaland. I mean, you can argue Jesus in there as well, or possibly Alvarez, but Solanke's been consistent all season, and yeah, I like him. The fixture against Forest, they've just sacked Cooper, so we'll see whether that gets a response for them or whether their poor form continues. And yeah, Ollie Watkins is getting the captaincy. Sheffield United at home, hoping for a bumper point score there. So that's it for my team selection video ahead of Game Week 18. If you've enjoyed it, then give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Love it when you guys do that. It is much appreciated. But I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another video.